Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quarter Podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I am joined by Tim Delace, who's the co-host as well of this podcast. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm all good. My cold and wet Cape Town, I'm all good.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this side is hot and dry. But anyway, remember we're a cricket podcast, a South African cricket podcast. You can follow us on Full Quarter Pod on X. We load news. We put up all the scores of the domestic season and any big news are happening there. We've got a YouTube channel where you're watching us right now. If you're watching us and you're new, please like and subscribe so you get notified whenever we go on. We also have got an audio version of this call with Apple Podcast and Spotify, and just search for Full Quota Podcast. That's growing a bit, and we love that, and we really, really are appreciative of that. And then we also have buy me a coffee. You can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. This is for any monetary donations or contributions that you'd like to make towards this podcast. Any and every contribution is appreciated. So yeah, that's who we are, and that's what we do. Yes, Tim?
I was just gonna say we've even joined TikTok. I don't know how long we're gonna be on there, but because I'm fighting in a battle, but we are on TikTok for the moment. So
yeah, Tim's got us on TikTok now, so you can see we're growing, all thanks to the contributions that everyone has brought. So yeah, focusing on cricket and South African cricket, and that's what today is. We're a happy South African cricket podcast. The Proteas Men managing to win and whitewash Bangladesh at home in the Test series. They needed, at the start of the Test series, they needed to win 5 of the last 6 to make it into the World Test Championship. They've already ticked off 2. Now they're left with 3 more. Tim, when the squad was announced and the team went there, you saw a lot of names like Dane Patterson, Dane Pete, a lot of question marks around the bowling, Senran Mutisami coming back in. But somehow, Shukri again answers the bell, silences the critics, making sure that his character monsters that he's creating are very, very good Test cricketers. And the first Test series win in Asia since 2014. What do you think of that? And that Test series and that second Test win, which was very dominant.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few caveats to that, particularly with the off-field issues that Bangladesh had. I think if they hadn't had those issues, I think it may well have been a bit more of a competitive series, which it didn't turn out to be in the long run. But South Africa ticked off an important box. It's an important box to get that series win against Asia. It's an important box in terms of the World Test Championship. They got the job done. It doesn't matter what whatever the opposition put up. If you get the job done, that's a good thing, and it's an impressive thing. And I do think they were impressive. I think to a large extent they covered all bases, and I think a lot of people that were here, particularly for the first time, can feel pretty proud of what they achieved.
Yeah. Isn't it quite interesting that it looks like Shukri Conrad does a lot of opposition research, and to a certain extent he sets his teams up for this. Remember in the press conference, even a month before the tour, when the squad was announced, he mentioned, he's going to take 3 seamers because it might need 3 seamers, but on the other pitch, on the one pitch, the one in Mpho, you might actually need to go in with 2. And what the conditions were going to be like. He had dinners with Russell Domingo to talk about the Bangladesh conditions and the team. And I look at that in hindsight going, this is what proper opposition research, this is what preparation looks like. I've been crying around, especially for our limited overseas team, to prepare. And you look at this Test side and they are well prepared. Yes, they may be young, or newish to international cricket, to Test cricket, but they play a great brand of cricket. They play their bowling attack, obviously, in South African parlance, has always carried South Africa's this cricket team, but they were aggressive against the home side, who were limping and they had their own issues, but it was so dominant in such a way that was like, no, we prepared for this. And it's really refreshing to see a South African team like that, traveling away, covering all their bases, having enough of the weapons, bringing in Senram Mutisami for the second test, bringing Dame Patterson in. He mentioned Dame Patterson was going to bowl wicket, and we sat here going, is Dame Patterson even going to start? And we found out that no, Dane actually sits behind Lungi, which is fascinating. But it works. The gambles he took worked. Stubbs at 3 worked. Tony DeZorzi finally coming to fruition, right? The only person we're asking about is Dave Bedingham, but he's already had his moment. But we're going to look at the form. But it's now getting Rickleton and Brzezinski and that other group back into form as well. And then with the bowling, they didn't rest Kagiso. They bowled him. He had the fire. He wasn't. Kagiso has moments where he moves in and out of the game. He was on fire from ball 1 of the Test series, and yeah, it's great to see a team that's prepared. And I can't wait to see what they have planned for Sri Lanka in Durban and in PE, as well as obviously Pakistan come Boxing Day. Because for me, I think with under Shukri, this team is actually playing really, really well, and well done to him and well done to them.
No, you're absolutely right. Shukri is going to take a huge amount of credit for what he did, and the decisions that he's made. There were, as you say, lots of questions were asked. We asked the questions. We were surprised. I think that's the right word. I think we were surprised in terms of the selection, some of the selections made outside of the 11. But he said time and time again, you can see what a Shukri Conrad player is, and a Shukri Conrad guy is a character, willing to put in the hard yards, willing to bowl into tough situations, and willing to put in the hard yards. That's been a character of the side. The other thing I would like to point out is they look a happy bunch. They look a very, very happy, settled team at the moment. Yes, okay, this team has not played England, it hasn't played Australia, it hasn't played India. Those will be the real tests of this particular squad of players when they come up against those sorts of teams. But the teams that they're playing at the moment, they're playing good cricket, positive cricket, and I think the future is bright. I don't think there are very many question marks. The only question marks I would have is people that you know are going to come back in. Who are they going to come back in for? That's the questions you're going to have. People like Marco and company. Those are the questions, and those are good questions to have, because Marco is a first teamer. That's a good question to have.
Yes, and I agree with you. And I look at that Vian century and I sit there going, yes, this is what we were waiting for. This is what we were looking for. This is why everyone is doing. Yes, I've been so hard on him and I'm still 50-50, but it raises the question that, okay, so now your number 7 can actually bat at 7 and he can score runs, right? And then you've got Marco. If Marco comes in at 8 and you have 2 more seamers and Keshav, that's probably one of the most formidable batting lineups in world cricket now.
He's already said that ideally Vian and Marco will play together.
Yes.
No, he's already said that.
That's what we've wanted.
I know. So let's hopefully it happens. Hopefully it happens.
No, against Sri Lanka it should. It's Vian, Marco, Kagiso, and one of the guys who's coming out of whatever conditioning block that they need to come out of, Gerald or Lungi or Nandre, and Keshav.
Nandre's gone for the season.
Okay.
Well, he's injured, and he was released by his SA20 side, and that's in January.
Oh, I remember that, yeah. Because Bjorn Hendrik is now in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So great Test series win. Now we wait for the end of the month when Sri Lanka come, and we have to deal with those two. So yeah, as we keep going, and India keep on losing. That's all we want. We just need to keep on pushing forward. But yeah, insane Test win by New Zealand. By the way, that's one other thing that I was like, geez, what a weekend. What a month for New Zealand cricket. World champions in the women's game, and then now whitewashing India at home with, I wouldn't say second-rate spinners, but they're not at the level of the spinners that India brought out. But yeah, wow, that's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of South African flavour in there doing the business as well. And Phillips.
No, that's true. Okay, Kagiso in that Test series became the number 1 Test ranked bowler. I think Kagiso is the greatest bowler of all time. Sorry, Jimmy Anderson fans. He just doesn't play that many tests. I think he just needs to get to 400, 450, or even 500. I don't even think he'll get to 500. But if he gets to about 450, or he becomes the number 1 wicket taker in South African cricket, then we can say it. But I'm saying it now. At 330 or whatever he is, he's the greatest of all time. And
okay, I'm going to get some haters. I'm going to get some haters. He's not.
No, Tim. He is.
He's not the greatest of all time. No. He is going to be the greatest that South Africa have ever produced, but not the greatest of all time.
Who's the greatest of all time, Tim? Don't tell me Jimmy Anderson.
Malcolm Marshall of the West Indies.
Oh.
Malcolm Marshall.
Okay.
The West Indies, hands down.
Tim, we're arguing about eras now. This is like a Michael Jordan LeBron James argument.
I know. You said of all time. You did say of all time.
Yes, he is.
No, Malcolm Marshall.
I'll put it out there. He's okay. For now, I'll say he's the greatest South Africa has ever produced. I'll take the GOAT argument out and I'll hold it for when he retires, or when he gets to 434, 435. I think that's Dale Stein's record.
I'm going to double down. He isn't the greatest of all time for South Africa because of his record in Asia. If he has a similar record to Dale Steyn, then there will be no debate, no discussion. That is the only hurdle that he has left. Get over the hurdle for me to be the greatest we've ever produced.
Okay.
Now, Dale Steyn is still better than him.
Okay, Tim, I got you. So you're saying Dale? That's fine. That's okay. We're going to India next year. We've got a Test series in India. Kagiso, my brah, I'm putting everything down on you. Win us that Test series in India. You've seen what the people in New Zealand are doing. We can do the same. We're a better side than New Zealand. And have better spinners. That's the thing. I love Ajaz Patel. I love you, my man. I love Mitchell Satner. But they're not Keshav. They're not Keshav and Dane Pete. They're not even Keshav and Senaran. But yeah, shout out to Mutasami as well. Proteas caps, you see what happens when you come onto the Full Quota podcast? You find yourself in green and gold in places you never thought. But I love Keshav. Every time he plays, Senaran. Every time he plays, scores a half century, shuts people up. That partnership with Vian was sensational. Okay, let's talk about the T20 squad, because India are in the country with a strongish squad, but I think they're giving their next best players a chance. Here's the T20 squad that we selected for this one. So, South Africa selected a 16-man squad. Aiden Markram is captain. Othniel Bartman. Gerald Coetzee returns from the conditioning block. Donovan Ferreira. He made it. That's going to be quite an interesting call. It's probably one of his final few chances. Reza Hendricks is still in. Marco Jansen, Hanno Klaasen, Patrick Kruger, Keshav Maharaj, David Miller. Mihlali Mpongwana makes his senior debut with a call-up. He was called up in the Ireland series, but this is a little bit of a step up into the A team, similar to Patrick Kruger. Ngaba Peter also into the squad. Ryan Rickleton, Andile Semelani is also making his step up into the squad, probably just to effectively shadow everyone, similar to the Deval Brevis role. Luto Sipamla is coming in for the third and fourth T20I, so that's going to be quite interesting to see. Well done to him. It's first time since 2021. And then Tristan Stubbs as the final player in the squad. A couple of notables that are not there. Kagiso Rabada is not there. He's being rested. Lungi Ngiti is also not there. He needs to complete his strength and conditioning block similar to what Marco and Gerald did. So now they're back into the squad. There is Tim, do you have me now?
It's still breaking up a little bit. Your picture's frozen.
Okay, no, that's fine. It'll unfreeze as we go through. Because on my side it looks fine. It doesn't look like I'm struggling here. But anyway, a couple of notables that are not here. Also Matthew Bretsky is not in the side. Kind of an interesting indication of where the future holds. Tim, what do you make of the squad, and who do you think is probably the angriest at the announcement of the squad?
That's a difficult one to answer. I don't know why Britsky's out. I've got this vague memory that there's some reason. I can't remember what it is, but I can't think. He's the only one that I would say who's nailed down in this format, who's done the business, has gone over to the UK last season, performed there. If he's fit and everything, you would like to think that he would be in this squad. Outside of that, I think it's pretty much what we expect. The big name players came back. That's a huge plus for us. Marco coming back is also huge. I was hoping that they would hold off on this, but I suppose it's not. I suppose it's fine. I'm trying to find a better word. Mukwana is got a very bright future ahead of him. But I was saying the same thing about Chile 2 years ago. About 3 years ago, when he was selected for the T20 squad. I don't think we will see a similar situation. I don't think his game will fall away, but I won't be live. I'm saying that I hope it doesn't affect him. I hope he takes the opportunity, enjoys the experience, and maybe he gets a game. I would not be picking him right now. I would probably have chosen a different series for him against, India, slightly weak in India. It's still India. It could be a tasting experience. I just hope it isn't. I think otherwise it's pretty much the same side. I'm looking forward to seeing Peter. Indian players has been exposed in their test series against New Zealand. They're struggling. I think he could have a very, very impactful series if he plays, Peter. I think he'll be very, very important to the setup.
Is this us moving away from a Tabrez in blooding in Ngaba Peter as the second spinner? Bjorn Fortuin also not being there kind of gives you an indication that maybe this is where we're going in terms of spin.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. I think it's very, 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 very clear. I still expect Shamsi to be the World Cup next year. I still expect him to be there. But we know what Shamsi's got. We know his abilities. He's now turned down a central contract because he wants to play T20 leagues. Absolutely fine with that. This is Peter's time now. Peter needs to play, particularly in this format, every series that we play. Get as much experience as he can before that World Cup. Because that World Cup, because we play so many T20 World Cups, will be right the corner very, very soon. So we actually, in a slightly different to Mukwana, I have no issues with him playing in India. I think he will take the mantle, and I think he will enjoy the battle I think he will take it on, and I think he'll do very well. But yes, to a wider point, I think it's a very clear message that Peter is the future.
And into the batting, looking at the batting, it seems like to me, I don't know why. But we still have the same guys from the World Cup. You've got Reza, you've got Aiden, you've got Tristan, you've got Heinrich, you've got David Miller, Ryan Rickleton, the guy who was sitting on the bench is now obviously there. Like looking at it, I kind of feel like Donovan Ferreira is this his last chance? Because at international level, he has actually done well. But is this like a Vian Mulder situation, Tim, where we just need to stick with this guy and he will come right?
It seems like it, doesn't it? It seems like it. I wondered if they were, when they had the discussions, whether they were thinking of other individuals who had a similar role, hard-hitting, big hitter, with a sort of all-rounder capacity. Somebody like Evan Jones, I think in part he hasn't played enough, but I also think when he has played, he hasn't quite kicked on. So in an ideal situation, you want Evan Jones competing with Ferreira. Very similar roles within this particular format. But I don't think Evan Jones could be picked for this. But undoubtedly, there will be pressure on Ferreira. He has not been doing the business. He had a good CSA T20 challenge. But if we're honest, what matters is CSA20 and things like the Vitality Blast, the IPL. If you're doing well in those competitions, that's good. CSA T20 challenge is a standard below that. So he should be doing well in the CSA T20 challenge. That should not be a surprise. Whether he can do it for the Proteas is still up for debate. Talent is there, undoubtedly. He needs to show it.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, it's a talented squad, and to a certain extent, it can be said to Ryan Rickleton. Ryan had a great series against Ireland, but not in the T20s. But you're looking at a limited overs player who's looking to make his name and punch his ticket in. I just, for the life of me, can't remember who opened the batting at the World Cup with Reza. Quinton. Oh, yes. There's no Quinton. So Ryan Rickleton obviously comes into open. That's why I thought this thing was light. I was like, where's the other batter? I know we've got Donovan, but is Patrick Kruger going to fit in the middle order? The other question, obviously, is for me, when I look at the squad, is where do you see a guy like a Vian Mulder in the setup? This is a perfect series for him to kind of showcase whatever he wants to showcase. But I'm understanding that probably Marco Jansen is coming in, but Vian is turning a corner in his cricket. It would have been great to have given him this opportunity and created that competition with him and Marco to see if you can't have a 7-8 or an 8-9 of a Vian and a Marco in a T20 game. It's going to be interesting because we don't have Kagiso for the first time in a while, how our fast bowlers actually lead the line and they bowl. Gerald was wayward in the CSA T20, to say the least, in that finals week, and so that's the thing that's kind of slightly bothering me. But we'll see how this bowling lineup holds up without Kagiso and Lungi to a certain extent. Lungi and Kagiso have done the hard yards in this in limited overs cricket over the past couple of months, and I think it's good for them to have the rest, and it's good to see that Lungi's preparing for the Sri Lanka series, which speaks to people talking across the formats. Okay, Tim, let's go into the 4-day series. We had a couple of 4-day series games this week as the season started. We're going to start with Division 2. There were 2 Division 2 games this week. The Six Gun Grill Garden Route Badgers played the Inyati in East London. They beat them. The Badgers scoring 308 in the first innings. Inyati scoring 236. Badgers 224. and the Inyati bowled out for 248, which means that the Badgers won by 148 runs. Luke Beaufort of the Badgers in the first inning scored 112 of 115. Jay de Klerk took 10 in the match for the Inyati in a losing cause, and Thomas Caber for the Badgers took 8 for 104 in the match, and Leabona Malife as well of the Badgers took 4 for 12. The other game was the Impalas beating the Storm in Limpopo. In Polokwane, Liam Peters scoring 103 for the Impalas. Kagiso Rabada 2 for 55 and 6 for 60 for and then Shaylin Pillay scoring 56 of 118 for the Storm in a losing cause, and Kyle Landsberg 3 for 62 and 4 for 60 in a losing cause. Tim, you watch these games. What do you take out of these two games? And it's a disappointing loss for the Storm, actually, to start off the season, the 4-day season.
Yeah, Gordon Parsons is doing the business. Is that right? Am I right? Yes. Yeah, look, I think they were slightly off the highs of the T20 challenge. They weren't bad, Storm. They just weren't quite there. They weren't quite up there. And Mpho, after the disappointment of missing out on the semi-finals of the T20 challenge, they were up for this. They were celebrating every wicket, every run. They were seriously committed to that performance. They deserved to win, just on the fact that they wanted it more. On the day when it came down to it, they wanted it more, and they put more effort into it. That's a huge win for them, because we saw how well they did last season. They want to kick on now, particularly in this format. They want to improve for the full-day competition. But the big one for me was the Badgers one. I think the Badgers, they're producing something there that is bubbling nicely. Nobody's really talking about them, but I think they're producing something nice, being nice and consistent. Luke Beaufort is an under-19 player 4 years ago, 23 years old. He was the difference. When I put up the scores there, I put up balls faced because sometimes you actually see the difference, and he was virtually runnable. 112, 115.
Yeah,
he was playing on a different pitch across the game. There, he was playing on a different game, completely different. He just attacked the opposition, and once he went at 100 in the first innings, the foundation was set for the Badgers to get the win. I think I have it right. The Eastern Cape now lost every game in the T20 challenge, and they lost first in the 4-day competition. So they've got a lot of work to do. I thought they'd be a little bit more competitive, but they've got a lot of work to do. But the Badgers, they did well. They did really, really well.
Yes, then Inyati are worrying me a lot because of that, Tim. You just can't be on a losing streak for a very long time when everyone else around you seemingly finding a way to win games, and you can compare them to Limpopo and Mpumalanga, and on a resources basis they've had more resources than the other two provinces, but the others are winning games. Let's move into the 4-day series. There were 3 games in the 4-day series. Western Province 212 and 225, beating the Dolphins 196 and 190 by 51 runs in Durban. George Linder came through in that game. Daniel Smith 92 of 139, opening up for Western Province. Carl Simmons took 9 wickets in that game. John Bird 64 of 144, and for the Dolphins, the bright ray of light is Ramashin Pillay, former S under 19, 66 of 51. The Warriors drew with the Dragons in Port Elizabeth in Gqeberha. 296 plays, 386 for 8 declared versus 239 and 328 for 8 declared. Jordan Hanman back in the runs, 99 of 184. Matthew de Villiers with 2 half centuries in that game, 94 and 58. Ron de Swart, 92 and 87 not out, with a 5 for 52 for the Dragons, and Patrick Kruger. He's going to play for the Proteas in the CSA T20 in the T20 series against India, scoring a run of ball 79, and Snetemba Klashile with a half century 71 there as well. And then the final game of the week was the Knights taking on Boeland in Bloem. The Knights 266 and 291, beating Boeland 266 and 122 by 169 runs. Gavin Kaplan, he used to be at Western Province, now is at Boeland, 51 of 114. Clyde Fortain with a half century there. Aaron Pangiso with a 73, and Dean Forrester with a 71 there. Joe van Dijk taking 9 for 74 for the Knights. He was instrumental in that win. Tim, 3 games to start off the 4-day series. Some good results and some interesting ones. The Knights did quite well in their battle to avoid relegation by beating Boeland, and Western Province putting the Dolphins just having a bad season, but Western Province, not doing much to beat them, but they still got the win nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through each game if that's okay.
Sure, no problem.
They are talking points from each game, which are important. So the Province game, it's the Simmons and Linda show. If the Linda doesn't go away for a T20 or T10 at some point, which I think he will, but if he doesn't, those two are going to get a lot of wickets in this competition. Bowling in tandem, they were very, very difficult to play. Simmons was absolutely superb in that first innings, so 6 for 60. Daniel Smith looks a different player in 4-day cricket. It's just, I think he'll be a one-day player eventually, but he's got a lot of work to be done in those formats. 4 days, he doesn't have to do anything. He is just on a different level. It was a magnificent 92. Hugely, hugely impressive performance. Province just efficient. Dolphins, I don't know what's happened there. I didn't think the loss of Imran Khan as coach would have such an effect, but it's looking like it is. It really is. Noticeable, though, I must say, Ramashan Pillai, 66, was very impressive. He looks like he's a youngster. He's in a rookie contract over there. He looks like a find to me. He looks like a real talent. So if they can keep him, maybe they'll turn things around. The Warriors Dragons game, Warriors should have won. There's no doubt about it. Warriors should have won. Dragons fought hard. They kept themselves in the game. Mikel Pretorius was very, very impactful in the second innings, making a very good 50. I told you about Matthew de Villiers. I said this boy could play on his debut, 94 and 58. Beautiful. Absolutely magnificent. I had CSA commentators going to me, who's this black? Who is this black? So you could thank from me. I've been watching this boy for 3 years now. I'm just so delighted that he's doing the business.
Tim's moment in the sun. Tim's
I have
craze.
to take it. I have to take it.
Take it, my friend. Take it all. Take it all. That final game?
The other thing. No, I'm just touching on one thing. Tuan Olafia is back, boys. I'm saying it now. Saying it now. Tuan Olafia is back. I'm not going to say it's going to be Proteas because I think we've got too many options. But the boy that we saw 3 years ago, the enforcer, the guy who was injuring players, he is back. Okay. If you ask the Northwest batsman who was the most difficult to play in that match, they will say Tuan Olafia. In that second innings, he only got 1 wicket, but he hit Malan, he hit Putz, he hit 4 of the top 6 in the head, on the shoulders. We had medics coming in, hit on the hands. It was the old, round the wicket, bowling short, roughing batsman up. The old Tuan Olafia, which was a beautiful sight. It was great to see. I just hope it continues.
Please don't. I'm not ready to go through this again. No. Fine. I'm happy for him and the Warriors. Well done, Duan. But
And then finally, Poland, I don't know. Poland, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
No, Tim,
Knights,
you have to know.
well done, Knights. They did very, very well. Joe van Dijk, remember Joe van Dijk? Right?
Yes.
We talked about him last season.
Heat.
We said he's good enough for Division 1. 9 for 74 in his debut. The difference here was that extra pace. Nobody in either side had that extra pace that he has. And he was the difference maker.
But we know this, and we've said this multiple times about Gold Rush Boyland, is that for 4-day series, you need a pacer. The Northwest Dragons have Marco Jansen, they've got Gideon Peters, and they've got Miguel Pretorius. Who do you have?
Yeah.
The Knights have Joe van Dijk. The Lions have pacers. The Titans, you can question, but they've got guys who can crank it up. But who are you bringing to the table?
Yeah. And it was alarming. It was alarming in this game. The game was quite even for large parts until the second half of the match. Second half of the match, that barrage of pace and the fact that Poland playing at home, playing against a newly promoted side, I think subconsciously they thought, we're playing at home, Van Berg and Mahima will be enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Those boys can't win you games every single time. They can't do it. I thought Mahima, it's very hard for me because I think he's been exceptional player for them for the last couple of seasons. But I thought he bowled very, very poorly. But that was because he didn't have the protection of somebody at the other end making it difficult for the batters. And that's going to be more and more so as the season progresses. I'm glad Kaplan scored runs. I'm glad he looked good in his first innings. That's a good, solid innings. But I'm very, very worried about Poland. The Knights, they can be very proud because they got close several times in the T20 challenge. They lost games by very, very small margins. This is a start of something fresh. I think they could be competitive in the 4-day competition potentially. So if they
there are a couple of key games for Boyland for them to stay up, right? Yes, CSA T20, they probably got like 1 point to 2 points, whatever it is. But that one, the one that just passed against the newly promoted side, you needed to win. You lost that. So we'll remember this when they get relegated. So that's the one. The other one that's coming up will probably be against the Dolphins. Dolphins are playing poorly. Very, very poorly. You can't catch Northwest now because they've got about 7 points or whatever it is, 6, however much for finishing third. So they effectively secured another season here. This game against the Knights, and even in the one-day cup, the game against the Knights is going to be a relegation battle. But now they're on the back end of one big one. And now you kind of need to beat the Dolphins because everyone else, I don't know who you're going to beat. How are you going to beat the Titans are strong. The Lions are always strong. The Dolphins are the team you should be beating because by the virtue of them playing poor cricket. You know, you need to catch them on a bad day. But knowing Boyland, they're going to catch them on a good day. Right? And so for me, it's going to be a long, hard season for Boyland. Very, very long. Similar to the Inyati in Division 2, it'll be a very long season. But anyway, okay, cool. Let's go to Tim's Team of the Week, or Teams of the Week. We'll workshop it. But so Tim, in Division 1, you said the Team of the Week: Daniel Smith, Jordan Harman, Gavin Kaplan, Matthew de Villiers, Netima Klashile, Ruan de Swart, Bear Sonapool, Ramashan Pillay, Carl Simmons, Joe van Dijk, and Aaron Pangiso. And then in Division 2, you went for the Limpopo opening pair of Liam Peters and Ludwig Keisner, Shaylin Pillay and Chris Britz from Eastern Storm, Luke Beaufort from the Badgers, Grant Thompson from the Storm, Thomas Kaber from the Badgers, Jay de Klerk from the Inyati, Carl Landsberg, Andrew Rasimene from the Storm, as well as Kagiso Rabada from the Limpopo. Let's talk Division 1. It's the first one of the season. I see you've got Joe van Dijk. You've explained that. Aaron Pangiso gets in with a 73. Let's talk about Sinathemba Xeshile in this one, Tim.
He played
Is he
very
coming
well.
back?
He's 50. He played very, very well. I was very, very impressed. Well, we said last season. Last season was a good season for him after about a season and a half of struggles. A season and a half, 2 struggles. Last season was a good season. This is a progression. This was not a difficult decision for me because of the way he played. And it was a very, very tightly contested fixture. So when he came in, things were a bit tricky. So it's a hugely plus for him. The only sort of question I had, and it is slightly, I chose balance of the side versus actual performance. So I went for Boris Swanepoel over Patrick Kruger, simply because I wanted to have a second opening bowler in this 11. And Patrick isn't there anymore. Isn't at that level, whereas Bayers definitely can open with John and Jake.
And then Roland de Swart, he's been unlucky not to receive another Proteas call-up. Vian Mulder is effectively closing that door there for him. But it's good to see that he's scoring runs and taking wickets.
Yeah, I hope that he was spurred on by the fact that he was selected for the national side. Yes, in strange circumstances, but I hope that in at least the Chukri had said, you're not a million miles away. You might be here for slightly obscure reasons, but you're not that far away. You're not that far away. He played very well. He was the reason. He was the reason Northwest got a draw out of that fixture, because for large parts the Warriors were on top, and Northwest was second best. He was. Yeah, it's great to see. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to Division 2. I see you've got the Limpopo trio, but you've got more Eastern's players than Limpopo players. Can you explain that?
This was a very difficult one because everybody struggled with the batting. So yeah, you're probably going to say 5 players from a team that lost. It's a little bit strange. I agree it is a little bit strange. But in terms of the only people that made runs of any significant note were Peters and Beaufort. They made hundreds, and Chris Butts made a 50. Everybody else, there was nothing else at all. So in that top 6, those are guys that are making 45s and 37s, and it was a bad weekend for batters in Division 2. Let's put it that way. Very, very bad. It's also why I went spin heavy in my team. Batters really struggled with quality spin. They really, really struggled. That's why I have 1, 2, 3, 4 spinners. That's why I've got 4 spinners in my 11. So 3 or 4. 1, 2, 3, 3.
But Jade and
3.
Kyle
Landsberg.
Yeah.
3. Even Andrew Rosmain, he sneaked in because he was his normal, reliable self. You're always going to get a 7 out of 10 from him. Always. 3 wickets in the first innings, 3 wickets in the second innings. Nothing brilliant, but just, again, I wanted a bit more of a balance of the side more than anything else. I could easily have gone with a 4th spinner. I just think for the balance of the side, it would have looked a little bit wonky from that perspective. But for Division 2, you want to see batters score runs. And first round, that's a slight issue. It's a slight issue because batters struggled.
Okay, cool. Let's close out the show quickly with some fixtures. We'll start with Division 2. The Inyati take on the Impala in East London this week. The Limpopo Impalas with a win, coming to a team that hasn't won a game all season. So it's not going to be a walkover, but I think the Inyati might use this opportunity to get back on track. The Eastern Storm will host the KZN Inland Tuskers in a promotion battle. Effective. This game is important for promotion stakes. If you beat this team, because it's a single rounder, you effectively give yourselves a chance, right? So the Storm take on the Tuskers to try and revenge the T20 loss in the same venue a couple of weeks ago. And then the Mpumalanga Rhinos are in White River hosting the Northern Cape Heat. The Heat will be playing their first game of the season, hoping to get their chances of promotion back on track with a game against the Rhinos. And then in Division 1, we've got 3 games this week. The Lions take on the Titans on tomorrow on Tuesday. EXK battle is always going to be great, but it's their first chance at everyone to see what the Lions and Titans have in whites this season. And then you've got Gold Rush Boyland taking on the Warriors in Paarl. And then you've also got the Knights taking on the Dragons in Bloemfontein. So those games are going to be quite key. And as I said, a game against the Warriors for Boyland as well, quite key, beatable team. If you win here, give yourself a chance at getting points, at getting points and moving up the log and moving away from relegation zone. The Knights with a winnable game against the Dragons. Is the batting of the Dragons could be quite too much for the Knights. What do you make of the fixtures, Tim? Is there anyone that you're looking at and are interested in?
Probably that last one, the Knights Dragons. I mean, everyone is going to be talking about tomorrow's fixture, and fair enough, that is going to be a blockbuster one. But I'm interested in. That's what I'm interested. I'm interested in survival, and how those teams in survival are going to be. Those sorts of teams are going to be front of center of my mind. But of course, I will be looking at tomorrow's game. Tomorrow's game is you can't look past tomorrow's game, really.
Yeah, no, you can't. And it's the first time we're going to be seeing these teams in battle at the Wanderers, so it's going to be quite cool. Outside of that, remember the Proteas play on Friday, and on Sunday against India. They're going to start in Kingsmead, then go to Gqeberha, and then finish off in the Highveld for this T20 International Series. Please go get your tickets. Please watch the 4-day series matches on the CSA YouTube channel as well for those who are interested. Tim, do you have any final words, any things that you want to praise or you want to talk about before we leave?
Just to congratulate the South African women under 19 series win against Ireland in preparation for the World Cup in January. Look, they were always going to win that series, but I think Tanisha said when she's interviewed afterwards, it's important to play these games rather than warm-up games. These games are this versus inter-squad is a hell of a lot better. That was the point. These are a lot better. You learn about combinations, you learn about players, you learn about where to get the best out of individuals. So it was a 5-0 sweep, but I think a lot of lessons will have been learned from that. And it's also good for us to see players coming through because we focus on the women's game quite a lot. So hugely impressive, and hopefully it brings us green shoots on early in next year.
No, it is. And yeah, look, I think Dinesh is setting this team up for success and potentially winning that World Cup. So yeah, they played really well against Ireland, and it's something that we are excited for. And yeah, the more, there's never such thing as too much preparation. So the more games they play, the better they become, and the better they are at the World Cup. So we're excited about that. But Tim, outside of that, thank you very much, my good friend. To everyone, we'll be back when we are back. But remember, please follow us on X at Full Court Apart. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you know when we go live, so you're not surprised, you know. Also, if you're new, please like and subscribe, share widely to your friends and family. Also, audio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Full Court Podcast. And then finally, please do spare some, if you have time, and you can buy some coffee to help us keep the podcast on the road, on the train tracks, and going forward. Any and all contributions are accepted.
We don't want Christmas presents. We want coffee.
Yes. And I like coffee. So, yeah, take me out for coffee, please. Outside of that, everyone, thank you very much, Tim. And we will see you on the other side. Outside of that, from us here at the Full Quarter Podcast, it's goodbye and le sale Kagiso.